Okay, next, Brynn DeLange. Brynn moved to Dayton about 2 years ago, accompanied by her bearded dragon. She now owns 3 dragons and would take them everywhere with her if she could. Tonight, she is going to go over proper husbandry and nutrition for the beginning dragon owner so their new pets can stay happy and healthy. Brynn DeLange.
All right, thanks for having me. My name's Brynn, and these are my bearded dragons. The top two are of Dargon, and then Aries is down in the middle, and Petunia's over on the right. I absolutely love these animals, and I originally fell in love with them about 6 years ago. I was a freshman in college, and I went into the pet store, and I decided to purchase Dargon. But I had never really owned a reptile before, didn't know too much about bearded dragons, or how to take care of them, so I had to learn pretty quickly. So I got him home, got him in his tank, and ready to go. So I'm going to kind of go over some basic caretaking advice and everything. So if you decide to go out tomorrow and buy one of these guys, you'll know what to do. So these guys make excellent pets. They're tame. They tend to stay relatively small compared to iguanas or tegus or other larger reptiles. And they're overall pretty hardy if you have the right setup and the right nutrition and all of that. And they're also very social. So they originated in Australia, so they're used to a very dry, hot environment. So you want to try to replicate that as best as you can within your home. So you want an enclosure that's about 3 times their body length for an adult dragon, and you want to add logs or rocks or things for them to climb on so they can get up close to their heat source. And you can pretty much add whatever you want, make it your own. But for the bedding, make sure you use a safe substrate for your lizard. I like the terrarium liner. It's kind of like a thick felt. And paper towels are also good, especially for baby dragons. The sands that you find in the pet store are actually very bad for bearded dragons because if they eat it, they can become constipated, and then it causes a whole mess of other issues for them. So this is what proper lighting looks like for bearded dragons. You have your basking side and you have your cool side. The basking side needs to be about 95 to 100 degrees for an adult bearded dragon. And then in the middle, you have your UVB bulb. That's basically mimics the sun, and I like to use a Reptisun 10.0. That's the best one that I've heard about and that I've found. For the cool side, it needs to be about 75 to 80 degrees. And the UVB bulb is probably the most important thing about caring for your bearded dragon, because without that, they will develop metabolic bone disease, which is what this looks like, and it's very sad. Basically, the UVB bulb helps them metabolize calcium, and if you don't have one, that doesn't happen. So they become very sick, and they do eventually die. So you might want to make sure you have your UVB bulb so they stay very healthy. They also can be prone to parasites, so you want to make sure that you take them to the vet regularly to get them checked. So digital thermometers are the best to use compared to the analog ones that you buy at the pet store. These are more accurate, and then you can also buy a temperature gun to pinpoint the exact temperature of their basking spot, so where they're laying. And you want to make sure that it's the correct temperature so they can digest their food properly. So speaking of food, they're not as gross as you think. These are the daily live feeders you should feed them. I personally like the roaches the best. Crickets are noisy and they die really quickly, and they actually smell really bad. So the roaches are probably the best, and the phoenix worms, and both of those you can purchase online. These are treats, and you feed them occasionally because they're higher in fat. So they're superworms and hornworms, and mine love those whenever I feed them to them. So when you feed them their live food, it's important that you add dietary supplements, which you can purchase at the pet store. So they come in like a white powder, and there's calcium and then a multivitamin. So they're just like, same as people, we need our vitamins, they need their vitamins. And you'll just dump some of these into a little baggie, add the bugs and shake it around, and then give it to your lizard, and they'll be good to go. So these you do a few times a week. For adults, maybe like 2 to 3 times a week. For babies, calcium you need every day. So they also need their fresh greens daily. These are some safe greens for your bearded dragon, and you can pretty much purchase them at any store like Kroger. Dorothy Lane has all of these. Mine love the mustard greens and the dandelion greens, and they have all the vitamins that they need. So it's important that these are offered every day. They also like fruit as a treat. This should be like a sometimes food because it's very high in sugar for them. And you can also feed them some veggies. So mine love like the mango, they love strawberries, pretty much any kind of berry they love. But like butternut squash is great, carrots are great, bell peppers, tons of different options for your bearded dragon that they enjoy. So here's kind of a guideline for when and what to feed your bearded dragon. So greens are obviously daily, insects maybe 5-6 days a week, depending on how many you're feeding. Veggies you sprinkle in there a few times a week, and then make sure you're getting your supplements in there, and then your fruit maybe 1 or 2 days a week as a treat. And then these are some things you should never feed your bearded dragon if you get one. Rhubarb and avocados are incredibly toxic, so they will die if they eat those. The iceberg lettuce has no nutritional value whatsoever. It's pretty much just water to them. And then spinach isn't really toxic, but it prevents them from absorbing their calcium, so I just kind of stay away from it. So this is petunia. So what I like to do is mix their fruit and veggies in with their greens, so they're more prone to eat them. It's like getting a salad. If it was all plain with nothing on it, you wouldn't want to eat it. So I like mixing things in there. Hydration is also very important. You'd think that they're like, oh, they're in the desert, they don't need that much water. Well, they do. They need water. So you want to leave a fresh bowl of water in there. They don't really like to drink out of just water that's standing still. So I often will have a mister bottle that I'll spray them down with, and they can kind of lap it up. Or I'll let them swim around in like a baby pool in the summer or in the bathtub, and they'll drink then when they swim. So he has a plushy owl that he sits on, and he enjoys that. And a lot of people don't think of reptiles as being like a cat or a dog, but they can be. So like they'll sit on the couch with me while I'm watching TV, or they have a little dog bed they can sit in. So they're very social, and they do like people. So if you do decide to get one, you shouldn't just leave them by themselves in a closed off room somewhere. You got to get them out and keep them social. So if you have any questions, if you decide to get a bearded dragon and don't know what to do, you can feel free to email me, bdelang35@gmail.com. I'd be happy to answer whatever questions you have. So thank you.
Man, that was great. That was really interesting. The diversity of topics tonight is blowing my mind. It's great. Food pyramids for dragons. Who knew? Who knew?